So, what have we been saying about Scripture these last 3 weeks or so? It's not about us. All right, you get a star. It's not about us. That's right. Well, let me add to that formula for you a bit. Okay? It's not about us. It's about Jesus. And Jesus is about others and us. Now, this week is a story about one of the others. If we have eyes to see, we discover that we too are one of the others. The others are those who, for whatever reasons, don't quite measure up or won't allow themselves to accept God's grace. They think that their flaws make it impossible for Jesus to love them. These others have lives that are fragmented. They're broken. Some of those breaks are big and some are small. Some are seen by others and some others have no idea. They are those who are and feel separated from God. That's the others. Now, typically, we will look down on the others for the same reason that they feel like they're others. And we have a difficult time seeing ourselves as flawed, broken people. But we need to. It's important. The problem happens when we think that we are not like others. And until we see ourselves as the others, the Scripture isn't about us, and we miss God's grace. We can't just grab it and say, it's for me, and then move on. That's not how it works. Now, one of the things this passage says is that an encounter with Jesus is always shocking. As you read through the New Testament, through the Gospels, every encounter with Jesus is shocking. So will yours. Now, in this story that these three readers did wonderfully with, and thank you, this story, though, never should have happened. It never should have happened. For one thing, it was in the middle of the day, at the hottest part of the day. No one goes to the well at the hottest part of the day because it's hot. And you don't go to collect the water because you got to carry it then. And here's Jesus, this Jew, who is in Samaria. The Jews never went in, and he finds himself at the well at noon. Shouldn't have happened. And not only that, this woman comes to draw water at noon, and no women do that. They go in the cool of the morning or the cool of the evening. But she went at noon, probably because all the other women looked down at her as the other. And they didn't want anything to do with her. They made fun of her. So they're there at the middle of the day. It never should have happened. And in that area, Middle East, even now, a woman is not allowed to be alone with a man unless he's a relative. If that was beginning to happen, they'd go in opposite directions. This never should have happened. And there was Jesus, a Jew, and she was a Samaritan, and they didn't have anything to do with each other. They hated each other. Never should have happened. And then Jesus asks her for a drink. Remember, a Jew, they would never share a drinking implement, a pail, a cup, a bowl, because they hated each other. It would be like they didn't want to get cooties from somebody, you know? Remember that part when we were in kindergarten or first grade? Oh, she's got cooties. It was worse than that. It was out of hatred, but it was the same sense. It never should have happened. Nothing about this encounter should have happened. And yet it does. And she has the courage to move past the conventions of her day, the rules of society, the rules of the culture. And so she had an encounter with Jesus that never should have happened. but it's Jesus. And those things happen. In fact, this is the longest recorded conversation Jesus has with anyone. I have a friend, graduated the same time I did, and she recently went to Israel, and she's been putting on Facebook some of the pictures of the places she's been, and it got me to thinking this week. I thought, that's a dangerous place, right? The whole Middle East. They got guns in the airport. It's scary stuff. Why would anyone want to go to Israel now? Or maybe ever? Part of the reason, I think, is people want to go where Jesus went or was. They want to stand in the footsteps where Jesus stood. Which is kind of cool in a way. But yet, almost all of those places where something happened special, there are probably 3 different places that claim this is the place. So, this is the place where Jesus was born. No, this is the place where Jesus, no, over here. And no one really knows the exact place of a lot of these things. But if you want to go and stand where Jesus stood and sit where he sat exactly, where do you go? Jacob's well. I find that really ironic. One would think if you wanted to go in the footsteps of Jesus, you'd go to Jerusalem, to Israel. But if you want to find where Jesus really was for sure, where do you go? Jacob's well, and Jacob's well is in Samaria. So if you want to go and stand in Jesus' footsteps, you don't go to Israel, you go to Samaria. I find that fascinating. I think God has a wonderful sense of humor. Warped just like me. I want to say that before you did. So Rich, who was a chaplain at a county jail in Spokane, talked about his church who loved others. The women of his church asked permission from the owner of a strip club to come in and to bring gifts of love for the women who worked there on Valentine's Day. Well, he reluctantly agreed, and they did. And then they asked for permission a second time to come in and bring meals for the women on Mother's Day. And again, he reluctantly agreed. Each time it was uneasy, but he said yes. Finally, the church asked if they could have a service there and a potluck on Easter Day in the strip club. They served food to whoever came, whoever dropped by from the streets, the women of the club, anyone who was there. Again, reluctantly, but can you imagine? Now, when I think about that story, you think about the impact that would have on those women who worked at that club. But there's an interesting thing about this story, and that is that the owner of this club was once a pastor. He lost faith in religion, and so he bought this club. When we care for the other, we reach others as well. As Jesus talked to this woman, she went and shared with her friends. Now, did you get all of that? Because if you didn't, we need to go back to the beginning. I'm going to go back anyway. This story, it's not about us. It's about Jesus. Jesus is about others. And we are part of the others. We are others also. Now, when we know these things, then the story becomes about us as well. The encounters with Jesus are always shocking, surprising, and, are you ready? Intruding. Jesus intrudes in our life. It's shocking and it's not very comfortable. Because, as the song said, we have to come with honesty. If I'm honest, she was honest with Jesus. He was honest with her in an intruding kind of way. Do you notice how intruding he was? Would you say that to someone? So now we're ready to begin. 3 things I want you to hear about this story as part of your Lenten journey, as part of your journey to grow closer to God. 1, Jesus came to her. to us. 2, this woman's got baggage. Lots of it. We got baggage. 3, others would not have come to Jesus without her, without us. There are people in your lives that no one else here sees. And they don't get an image of Jesus except to see us. So 1, Jesus comes to her. Little geography for you. Judah is in southern Palestine. Galilee is in northern Palestine. And to get from one place to the other, you had to walk right through the middle of Samaria. You guys are doing better than the first service, huh? They just said, okay, anyway. Don't tell them I said that, please. But the thing is, Jews never took that direct route. They would never go through Samaria. Exactly. They would never go through Samaria. They would take the alternate route, the long way around, to avoid going through there. And yet, Jesus goes there. Imagine, he went with his disciples. Can you imagine when he told the disciples, we're going through Samaria? They go, what you talking about, Jesus? You know? It'd be hard for them, but, you know, it was Jesus, so what do? You go where he takes you. And that's kind of how it is with our encounters with Jesus, right? Well, it's Jesus, so I guess we'll go with him. There's a conversation this week, digital conversation somewhere, between a couple of pastors and a theologian from back east. And the theologian at one point said something, it's just kind of a throwaway line, that really caught my attention. He said, you never know who's going to show up at your well. You never know who's going to show up at your well. It may be your work, maybe your school. You never know who's going to show up at your well. Jesus comes to Samaria, a place that time seems to have forgotten. There are about 300 people there now. They still see themselves as Samaritans. Primary structure is kind of a cellar, and in that cellar is this well. It's estimated that this well is 4,000 years old, which means when Jesus got there, it was already 2,000 years old. This is one of the few places where Samaritans, Muslims, Christians, and Jews all agree that this story actually took place. Jesus came to her at the well, this well. 2, woman has baggage, but guess what? So do we. To be honest, I should say, so do I. You'll have to say that for yourself. She is a woman on her own, yet not able to be on her own. A woman in that culture was not allowed to have property, would not be able to pick up a job somewhere. They were dependent on finding a man to do that for her. And so that's what she did. She found one man, and when that didn't work out, she found another. Because that's the only way she could live. There's no judgment there. That's the harsh reality of the thing. She's a woman on her own. And the worst thing was, she couldn't hide it. You ever lived in a small town? Everybody knows everybody's business. That's why she went and knew. Because none of the other women would have accepted her. Jesus invites her and each of us to revisit our past in truth. Not just to analyze or remain trapped in it, but to be liberated from its hold. Until you recognize it and put it out there, you can't get past it. And then we are called to be filled, refreshed, washed with this incredible living water that is Jesus. He finds us, even with our baggage. Robert Fulghum says something very important. You should probably write this down. I can wait a second while you pull out your pens if you like. He says, life is lumpy. L-U-M-P-Y. Okay. Y'all got that? He said, life is lumpy, and a lump in the oatmeal, a lump in the throat, and a lump in the breast are not the same thing. One should learn the difference. There are some things that are very important in our lives of faith. We need to address those. There are some things that aren't as important that we still need to face, but not with as much passion. And the thing is, our baggage does not deter Jesus. That's when he comes. Third, others would not come to Jesus without her. Others would not find Jesus without her. Karl Barth, who was a famous theologian in the 1900s, had a painting of the crucifix in his office. And as part of the painting, there was a figure of John the Baptist who was pointing up to Jesus. And whenever someone would come into his office and he'd talk about the painting, he would say, John the Baptist, see that? I want to be that finger. I want to be that finger that points to Jesus. She told others. They came, they heard, they believed. Now, get the picture. I don't know if you got the picture of this or not in the reading. But she goes and tells everybody she encounters, hey, this guy told me all about my life at its depths. This might be the Messiah coming here. And so a lot of them came to hear. Imagine that. Samaritans coming to hear a Jew. I mean, that's outrageous. And not only that, they got it. And they invited him to stay for a couple of days. Can you imagine the disciples? Jesus says, oh, we're going to hang out here for a couple of days with all of these Samaritans. Boy, that would have been a long couple of days for those folks. She told others. They got it. You never know who's going to show up at your well. You just don't. David McCaskill tells a story about a woman whose car was stalled at an intersection, and she waved him down to try and help him. And she said, my car won't start, but my husband says if you just rattle the cord that's on the battery, it'll start it. So if you can do that for me. And so he looked at it, and as he picked up cable, it came off. Obviously it was, needed to be jiggled or something. And so he said to her, well, why don't you just give me a wrench or something? I'll tighten it up. It'll be fixed and you won't have to worry about it. She said, well, my husband says if you just jiggle a little bit, it'll work. And he said, and if we do it now, then you won't have to worry about it. So she got out a wrench and handed it to him and he fixed it. And as he was fixing it, he had a thought. He said, sometimes that's how I am in my relationship with God. I want a quick fix. Right? God, this cable is loose. If you just jiggle it a little bit, we'll get on with life. Right? Sometimes that's how we see Lent. It's a season where if we just jiggle the right things, give up the right things, pray a little differently, when it's over, we'll get on with life. But Jesus is calling us to hand him our wrench so that he can tighten it up, make the relationship the way it should be. He comes to us, he loves us, and he calls us to tighten up and follow. Do you remember those ways of grace when Jesus has come into our lives? We call ourselves forward and we give.